let's call this meeting to order at 9:36 on, what is this, the 18th?
The 18th.
Matt, do you know if we have anybody for public comment?
I will just note, let's see here, that Phil Lingelbach is with us, I think, as guest, I guess, right? Phil's been a longtime advocate and contributor to the former Estacada Development Association and then DEC when that's what we became. And then Taylor Gibson joining us as well, and council liaison Justin Gates. But no, I don't see anyone from the general public unless Phil or Taylor are acting in the general public capacity right now.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Okay. So I guess that brings us down to reviewing and adopting the minutes from the last meeting. Does anybody want to add anything about those?
So I can shoot those up here.
I had a question about it, not necessarily like any, I just don't recall what the one item was that you, Rebecca, asked about. I don't see it on the screen right now, and I don't know how to scroll down, but it's like at the very end. And you asked something about the business mix. Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to know whose job or whose department it would be regarding trying to locate new businesses and to try and get a better mix of like a more diverse business owner population. And I think that's our job, Matt. It's kind of everybody's job, which is how I understood it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Matt, am I right in saying that?
Yeah, that was my response, and maybe that should be noted in the minutes is what my response was. I guess I noted the question, but oh no, I did say DEC and Economic Vitality Committee play an important role. Yeah, so I think we're good.
Okay, so if everybody's okay with that, can I make a motion to adopt the meeting minutes?
I think you can ask for a motion.
Can we get a motion?
I make a motion that we adopt the minutes as written.
I'll second that.
And then you would just ask for a vote.
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sounds
Aye.
like a yes.
All right. Okay, back to. Are you waiting for me to say something?
Oh, sorry. That brings us down to housekeeping items. So scheduling the third Thursday meetings. Is everybody on board with that or not?
Yeah.
Yes.
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 Okay, I just wanted to check in on that. So we'll keep it. Thank you.
And keep it at 9:30.
Yes, I think so.
Yep.
Okay. Joint planning session with the chamber, city, and what is OMHT?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, acronyms are fun, aren't they? Oregon's Mount Hood Territory, so Clackamas County Tourism. I've been chatting a little bit with Michelle Jones, who is the chair of the Chamber of Commerce, as well as Christina Richards, their executive director. And I was talking to them about some of the discussion we were going to have in this meeting, further on down, where we talk about these transformation strategies, or sometimes called catalyst strategies in the Main Street world. And it just seemed like as we talk about adopting a strategy or kind of a theme, as you might think of it. We'll get into that a little bit later in this meeting, but we kind of both agreed that since the interests of this group as well as the chamber are pretty well aligned. Of course, the chamber is mainly, their focus is citywide, and it is focused on promoting specifically their membership. If someone's not a member of the chamber, then they typically are not going to do anything directly to help them out. Of course, all the businesses in town are going to kind of indirectly benefit from a lot of chamber things, but anyway, the thought that Michelle and I had would be that we sit down and try and put together sort of an action plan that everyone is buying into. The chamber, downtown, we'd probably invite in a couple city councilors who have some interest in these types of things, and just get all on the same page. We in Estacada, I'm proud to say, are light years ahead of many small cities where the chamber and the city and downtown kind of all have these like competing interests in some way and don't always play really well in the sandbox together. But in our situation, we do, and I'm happy about that. But I think we still have our discussion today about strategies, but leave it open-ended and come together with the chamber, with county tourism. I guess I represent the city, but if there are elected folks that want to get involved, and just hammer out some roles and responsibilities and some basic sort of delegated items in an action plan format. So I guess my question to this group is, how does that sound? Kind of open-ended. I know meetings on top of meetings can be a bit much, and I don't want to go that route, but do y'all feel that this would be important? Connie, go ahead.
I think it'd be very important. We've said numerous times that we want to coordinate with the chamber, and because of the changes at the Oregon Mounted Territories and how many new members we have on DEC, I think it'd be a great opportunity for them to find out what we're about and we to find out what they're about and how we can work together, because that is one avenue of getting the word out that we need to take advantage of. I think it's a great idea.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with that.
Okay, so Michelle and I will try and get that coordinated. Maybe we'll send out some sort of a doodle. I don't know that everyone in this virtual room needs to participate, but by a quick raise of hand or whatever, do any of you want to be involved with that meeting?
Matt, is there a way that we can, like, do we need to fit into their schedule as far as this meeting goes? Or is there a way that we can have them come to one of our meetings?
That's a great idea. We could just try and target our next April meeting and then just invite them to attend. Let's try for that. Okay. That sound good to everyone else, so we don't have
Absolutely.
to add something else to the docket?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that suggestion. Okay, I'll be quiet, trying to restrain myself.
Okay, so I guess that brings us down to number 5, which is work session and discussion, committee formation and work.
Yes, so I think everyone should have gotten an email, or most everyone, if you expressed interest in participating at the committee level. I sent out emails yesterday scheduling those first committee meetings. Can anyone confirm that they got those? Okay, great.
Yep. I got mine.
And in that invitation and scheduling email, I sort of alluded to this, that I thought it might be a good idea to just go ahead and merge design and economic vitality. So in the past, this would have been kind of frowned upon. Not frowned upon, but the Main Street approach was pretty rigid and said you need a design committee, you need economic vitality, you need promotions, you need outreach, or what do they call it? Organization committee. You're kind of a stickler on that point, but They did a little refresh of the program a couple years back, and that refresh allows for more organizational flexibility, such as this, to form committees as they make sense in your community. So A, we're allowed to do it, and then two, I think it might just make sense because there are a lot of the same people we're going to be participating on both of those committees. And what Phil can probably tell you as well is that in the last iteration of the DEC, we would meet as the design committee, and then right after it would be the economic vitality committee, and it would almost be the same meeting rehearsed twice. And so I would like to see if you all feel comfortable with going ahead and merging those two committees, just because they do have such overlapping priorities, I guess. Or
I'm okay with that.
Anyone opposed?
Sounds great.
Okay, let's try it out. I mean, I'm a big fan of kind of like muddling through and trial and error to find what works. So I think it makes sense. Phil, you know, you're a long time Main Streeter. Do you have any thoughts on this? You may just be listening in. Well, I hope he's supportive. Phil has agreed to continue on and help out at the committee level, but is also joining this meeting. So we're moving through things efficiently today. Thank you for your support of that idea.
Okay, that brings us down to portion B, transformation catalyst strategies, Main Street approach. Is that your 62-page attachment?
Yeah. So let's see here. Oh,
I
sorry.
usually print these out, but when I saw how many pages there were, I was like, oh, hold on.
Oh, yeah, no. I wanted you to have the whole document in case you wanted it. This is a great like primer on all things Main Street, but there's, I should have bookmarked it. There's a few pages specifically that deal with transformation strategies. Just one second. Sorry if I give you motion sickness here. Okay, so bear with me. The text may be small. Is this somewhat legible for most of you?
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Okay. So here are some changes to Main Street in the past few years. I just mentioned one of them, flexible organizational framework. So it says, depending on, I'm down at the bottom here, depending on local context and needs, this could lead to a more staff-driven approach or a work structure formed around project teams, external projects, ad hoc task forces. So I guess they're just trying to give permission to, you still want to be like in the mindset of the 4 points, economic vitality, design, et cetera, but they're saying address those 4 priorities in the best way that makes sense for you. But here's where I want to spend the time on this agenda item, an emphasis on transformation strategies. So I'm just going to read this. In the past, the National Main Street Center and most statewide, county, regional, and citywide Main Street America coordinating programs recommended organizing revitalization work according to the 4 points. This is still the case, but primary emphasis has now shifted towards the development of 1 to 3 transformation strategies generated through meaningful community engagement and informed by an analysis of the district's market position that will guide revitalization work. Each transformation strategy is implemented through activities in the 4 broad areas of work represented by the 4 points. So a little bit wordy, but what they're getting at here is that you have sort of an overarching, I keep wanting to say theme, but that's not the correct word to use. Let me just keep talking and then you all can maybe help me find a better word. or maybe we just use their word, transformation strategy. So a transformation strategy articulates a focused, deliberate path to revitalizing or strengthening a downtown or commercial district economy, grounded by both an understanding of the underlying drivers of the local and regional economy, as well as community feedback and engagement. A transformation strategy should describe a market position that the commercial district can successfully fulfill. So we're going to get to this in a second, but for example, you may have like, I'm trying to think of an example that maybe everyone may be familiar with. Is everyone familiar with like the Gaslamp district in San Diego?
Yes.
So it's like 9,000 restaurants in a row, right? Like, I mean, there's some retail mixed in there, but it's heavily, heavily restaurant focused. And I don't know that anyone necessarily sat down at one point 25 years ago and said, we're going to create a restaurant row. But that's the way it evolved organically. And instead of trying to make it something different, they've embraced that and really made that the sort of like culinary district for downtown San Diego. Obviously, that's a very different, San Diego is very different from Estacada, right? But another example might be, well, I mean, we could look at our neighbors, Sandy, for example, like their transformation strategy, although I don't know that they have an official one, is very much so focused on being that entry point to Mount Hood. You know, they have sort of like the chalet sort of lodge architecture that they've adopted into their code for their building design. And they sort of position themselves as like that entry point to the mountain and the ski areas. So, you know, they have ski shops and et cetera, et cetera. Trying to think of maybe a third that might be, well, let's just get into some examples. Like, you know, we're on the Clackamas River. The river is a big part of the community culturally, historically. So that may be a component of or the transformation strategy. But let's continue on here. An effective transformation strategy serves a particular customer segment, responds to an underserved market demand, or creates a differentiated destination. It doesn't have to be one of those. It could be all three of those, but it's something that gives you, and I like the word they use there, that differentiates your commercial district. Because if Malala is the same as Estacada, is the same as Sandy, is the same as Canby, then there's no differentiation and we become the same as everyone else. And I think maybe he touched on that in that video we were watching last time. Does that ring a bell? Or I've watched a lot of those and I can't remember what is in each video, but he says, jettison the generic. So any downtown can have just like a generic assortment of things or activities or events, but when you can tie it in and make it a little bit more cohesive and like connected, then you can start to differentiate and really move a vision forward for the district. So the transformation strategy is rooted in the community's vision. We're operating as a representative democracy here a bit, right? So certainly if we want to, we can reach out to the broader community and gather their input for this. And I would definitely not be opposed to that. But as a city commission as well, you're the folks that have been appointed by city council to think long and hard and adopt something like a transformation strategy. It's based on analysis and understanding of the district's economy and its best economic opportunities. So Estacada is not going to market itself as the ski chalet type place. It's you don't want to try and become something you're not. You want to build on the assets that you have. It's comprehensive. It's implemented through a broad range of activities that span the 4 points. So your transformation strategy should be something that guides what events you have and what your design priorities are, and so on. This is where it gets a little bit harder, measurable, making it possible to track progress. So we want to try and find some goals, and we'll get there. It provides guidance for program activities for a 2 to 5 year period, after which the revitalization program should examine progress and make adjustments. So let's see if there's anything else I wanted to pull out of here. The Catalyst strategy paints a narrative of what a district might look like if it succeeds in building a focused economy. I like those two words as well, a focused economy. So it's not just a commercial district, it's a commercial district that has a vision. So what is that vision? Is it going to be an antiques focused one? Is it going to be on local makers? Is that going to be an emphasis? Can you tie together local makers and the river? Like, these are the type of conversations and sort of thematic things we want to be thinking about. So we're going to look at some like kind of out of the box transformation strategies that we could either seek inspiration from or just adopt out of the box. But as it's saying here, you probably want to define a customized strategy for your district. I think that was kind of all I wanted to look at in this document. Here are some examples, and I'm about to show you more. So some of them are like customer based, and some of them are more like industry type based. So do you want to have a business district? Should you have a business district? Does it make sense based on demographics, based on vision, based on all those things to serve a certain customer base, workers and residents, or elderly, aging in place, family oriented, or something that's a little bit more millennial, hipster, young adult? These don't have to be mutually exclusive, but at the same time, when you become everything to everyone, that's where you start to drift towards the generic and have a harder time differentiating. So you see a few other more thematic, they're calling it industry product or service based. So is agriculture something that we want to weave in? College town, I mentioned food and restaurants when talking about San Diego. Health and wellness, this is one that West Lynn is trying to work on. There's so much health and wellness already naturally occurring in their business district. They're trying to embrace that and be kind of like market themselves in that way. So sporting, recreation, outdoors, maybe even river recreation. I think I will leave that document there.
Matt, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do we still have the Estacada Area Arts Association, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they still exist. And yeah, so the arts, the murals, right? Like, I don't know that we should forget those. Those are existing assets that we would want to be thinking about and how we integrate that into the strategy. Incidentally, the chamber is talking with Mount Hood Territory right now about trying to make some enhancements to the mural tour. Not necessarily changing the murals, but trying to market them better and trying to make it easier and more accessible, adding perhaps wayfinding and stuff.
That was a question that I had that escaped me during the last meeting. Was all of the new buildings or potentially new buildings that are going to be built or renovated or what have you, is that a thing that the guidelines from city council or the city can put into code, that they are required to put some sort of an artistic spin on their building? Not necessarily what Sandy does by trying to go for the lodgy look, but murals. If you have enough of a space on a wall, put up a mural.
Yeah, that's absolutely something that could be integrated into the development standards that public art has to be a component. So right now, there's a very light version of that. On new development, there's a certain fee that's collected that goes towards Estacada Arts, but there's nothing that codifies the requirement for adding a mural or creating a space for the art back to do a mural. But that's
it would be nice to definitely work closely with them, because I think that's a great idea to have that kind of implemented, so we can do more murals. And I know there's been some owners that have been really reluctant of offering that extra space. So kind of doing that before, planning that beforehand, any renovations would be, I think would be awesome and a great benefit. Because I've actually had met a couple people have come out of town to actually do the mural tour. So people come out and see it. And I think the Estacada Area Arts Association does a really good job. And I just think that Estacada is really known for its arts, and I think we should really push on that.
okay.
It seems
yeah,
like
noted.
it seems like one step would be to just not allow businesses to cover up murals. I mean, like the Panda restaurant. I don't know the backstory on that, but they
Yeah,
completely covered up that mural, right?
they had to, I
They
think.
did.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that was there was a reason. I don't know the exact reason, but it had, something structural where they had.
Matt probably knows.
Yeah, Jenny, I can send you a little link, but the short version is that, yeah, it had to be done. But when the Artback was involved with that decision and they were aware of it, so it wasn't done without their knowledge. They sort of signed off on it, sadly. But the longer term vision is to restore that mural in the same spot. It's just that Artback has a fairly decent queue of murals already planned and limited capacity. So yeah, I know that mural was a favorite, the ginseng mural. And so hopefully we'll see it again.
And can you also, sorry to sideline, but can you speak a little bit to the Les Schwab one too? What's going on there?
Yeah, I'm not as aware of what's happening there. I know that they have also talked with Artback, but they're saying that that wall is basically rotting from within. The block is deteriorating. So I'm going to be in town today. I'll have to drive by. What's it look like?
It's completely painted over now. It's gone. So those are both Jenny Joyce murals. So that just makes me super sad because she's, an epic part of the history of this town. So.
Yeah. Dang. I was aware that something was going to happen there, and the city put Artback in touch with Les Schwab because they did reach out to ask about that. So yeah, I don't think there's hardly anyone that would advocate eliminating murals, but Katinka Brick, who you probably know, she recognizes, or at least has said to me anyway, they know that while they hope that these last as long as they can, when you put it on something like a building, there's always the possibility that that building is going to have to change in some way, or the building has to go away. But yeah. Okay. This goes into a lot more depth about how you can identify what appropriate transformation strategies are. And I think that that's part of the conversation that we have with the chamber, because I don't think that whatever strategy we're trying to put our energy behind should in any way conflict with the vision that other development-oriented entities in the city have. So to get everyone aligned is the objective. So we can take a look, or then again, maybe not. But as we plan that meeting, the chamber and myself and whoever else, we'll try and adopt those best practices so that we go through a methodical process to think through and identify the strategy. So here's another document. Again, I know it's small. So they're calling this a cheat sheet. You know, I think it's good for just inspiration and things to think about. What are some of the strategies or themes that could be integrated into your vision for the commercial district? So you see some of them here on the left, and then more details about them moving to the right. But you got agricultural economy, apparel arts, skip college town, but I'm not sure, what do they mean by this? Convenience goods and services, day-to-day. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, every commercial district should have your staples. I don't know that you can make a strategy out of that. But dining and entertainment, workers and residents, we already talked about this, aging in place. You know, is it an ethnic hotspot to where there's a lot of diversity, and you can use that as the appeal and the differentiation. I'll just scroll through some of these so you can see them.
I don't
Some
know
of them,
if we're-
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I don't know if we're like at the point of kind of making pitches about this, but I feel like, you know, major points for recruiting tourism would be obviously the river. I think that with the way that Portland is growing and sort of bursting at the seams, and the culture is sort of changing, I think that, you know, marketing ourselves as family friendly is obviously appealing for people to get out of the city. And I think that like homesteading, you know, the fact that we have so many makers and creators and farmers out here, you know, there's definitely been a return to people valuing those things of raw honey and, you know, homemade goods. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, I think for the most part, if a community knows itself and actually has some identity already and isn't just a completely vanilla place, then the themes should jump out pretty easily. And I think that they do for most of us. So it will be, this exercise with the chamber will probably just be, I mean, I don't want to say a formality, but identifying the strategies should come pretty easily. The work is going to be in identifying the action plan and delegating roles and who's doing what, so that we don't duplicate efforts. Okay, so I think you kind of get the idea there. So there's supposed to be an overarching transformation strategy that informs the work that our committees are doing: design, economic vitality, promotions, and organization. So we'll put that meeting on the calendar, hopefully for our April meeting, which I think is
April 15th.
April 15th, yeah. Any questions or additional thoughts about that piece? You know, in our first couple of meetings, I had really thought and hoped that we would be putting down concrete goals by now and really moving forward in that way. But the deeper I've gotten into this, I think we need to be thoughtful and deliberate and take our time. And this year, 2021, is obviously going to be a transitional year anyway, in many respects. So I think it's okay to take the time that we need in 2021 to really be thoughtful and then still do the things that we are supposed to be doing according to the ordinance that the council established to form this commission. So the 4th of July parade, we've got the green light on, and I think Connie is going to help lead that effort with the promotions committee. We decided last meeting to suspend Uncorked, so that won't happen. But we've talked about identifying potentially a shoulder season event. So we can still be doing all of those things while we're really putting together a good work plan through a good chunk of this year. I think that's okay. All right, so before I did grab some more Roger Brooks to entertain you all with. Yeah, and I found something that speaks to Rebecca's question from last meeting. Roger Brooks, he really espouses this idea that most of the time, a downtown is not going to be the destination. It certainly could be, but usually there are other attractions, whether it's a theme park or a river or you name it, that are going to be the main things that you market. But how do you then attract people, residents and visitors to spend time in your downtown instead of just going to the attraction or destination and leaving? So a good business mix is really what he feels like is the key there. You know, if you've got one cool store, great. But if you've got 7 cool stores, that's actually something that people will take time to go to. And so that's where he starts talking about the importance of your business mix and having just critical mass. I guess I'm stealing some of his thunder now, so I'll just go ahead and start this up. But the critical mass piece is important. I had this pulled up before I had to restart my computer. Okay, I want to start it at 27.
Next one is what I call the destination.
Okay. How's that look on your screen?
It's good.
Nation set. Now we're at 2,500 to 3,500 residents. And now you can start being a visitor destination and not just for your locals. But remember, your locals first. So in this case, we added 5 sit-down restaurants, okay? 5 sit-down, 3 casual, 2 fine dining. We added a second burger house. And maybe there's a burger house, and the next one is a sports bar. And you can see now we have 2 home accents and decor and 2 delis or lunch spots. And sometimes those delis can be part of a different kind of a store. It could be in a garden store. So some of these could be mixed. And now we have 4 specialty stores that fit your brand and your residential mix. Antique store, gift shop, outfitter, pharmacy. Here's one that you can add. Pet grooming. Believe it or not, pets are huge business. And pets, a lot of pets, like cats, don't like traveling very far to other places. So if you do pet grooming that has boarding, would have gifts, would have food and supplies, works very well once you get to this size town. By the way, we've even seen pet grooming work in towns of 1,000 people. But I just want to make sure that you understand that these are things that can cater to your population, that there's enough population to make it work for you. Another one would be a gym or a fitness studio, yoga or Pilates, you name it. This is a fantastic business mix for 2,500 to 3,500 residents. Now, in this mix, there are 13 places that sell food and 15 retail shops. When you can get to this mix, you are going to win big time, because the #1 reason people travel is to visit friends and family. Where do you take them? Now you've got a downtown that has the business mix that can survive off of local residents and their visitors when they come in, and those passing through the community. Now, a gym and pet grooming is, probably going to be 98% local residents. Remember, locals first. What's cool about gyms and these kinds of places, people will go there early in the morning, so it's a good combination with a coffee shop or a bakery. They will also go there after work. Many people go after work, and it brings people back downtown. Okay, pet grooming, boarding, those kinds of things. The gifts and food supplies during the week, the grooming, those types of things tend to be weekends, but it works. So here you've got 15 places that are retail and 13 that sell food. You know, that's nearly 30 retail stores in a small town. And you can do that in 2 blocks. And by the way, these businesses should be grouped together. You can't say, well, that one's 5 blocks that way, and this one's 4 blocks over there, and that one's half a mile away. If you have some of these in your store, I would urge you to try to get these people to come downtown. Once you have these people together in a couple of blocks, you will have an outstanding downtown that will be busy all day long, every day, during the evening hours, and on weekends. Now, our next set is the premier set.
Okay. I want to go to another section of this video.
Here's what you need to do next. Now, I want you to grab that handout and really sit down and say, which of these are we missing in our town? Start. I don't care how big your population, but start with that mix of towns of 500 to 1,000, and then say, what can we add to this mix? And you grow it from that list all the way up. And remember, even though I showed it in towns of, what I say, 5,000 or 3,500 to 10,000, your goal for a rural community is to get up to that 10,000. Because even Mahone Bay with 1,000, a lot of these small, Nashville with 1,000 people had what they had in towns of 10,000. But start with that 500 and keep adding on to it. It might take 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. So here's what I want you to do with all this. The first thing to do is go ask your locals. Do it online. Go to SurveyMonkey. You can probably do this for free on SurveyMonkey. Ask them, what could we do to get you to spend more time downtown? What could we do? And then what kinds of shops would bring you downtown more often? Name 3. And then how often do you think you'd frequent those shops? Ask your locals and then ask them what hours should they be open to get you there more often? And then what do you think downtown's focus should be? Ask your locals. You will get your list from your locals, and I'll bet it won't be a whole lot different than the list that you've been provided here. But ask your locals. It's the very first thing you should do is ask these 5 questions. Don't do 6, don't do 10. And by the way, don't do multiple choice. Let them just respond and tell you what they think. It's a fantastic way to start this. And by the way, downtown should be food, and this you might need to give them a little teaser. Do you think it should be food, antiques, art, music, kids and family, nightlife? What are your ideas? And by the way, I love this. The University of Wisconsin Extension Office did a great study. It's very, very hard to find. By the way, they're members of the Destination Development Association. What they did is they surveyed towns in Wisconsin of less than 5,000 residents, and they did the business mix within a half-hour radius. We'd like to see you keep it on your main street, or if they are in half a mile, recruit them to Main Street. What's really cool about the work they did is they went around the country and found cool uses. So here's called Fitbox. It's in Central City, Iowa, which is a population of 1,200, how it got started, who it serves, what they did in the building, how they got it funded. I mean, here's another example, is a grocery store in Tigerton, Wisconsin, population just 728. How they were able to bring a grocery store back. You know, here's another one, the Arts Emporium. This one happens to be in Wisconsin, population 1,100, what they did. So there's some cool ideas that I think are fantastic. You know, here's Tianesta Market Village, which is in Pennsylvania, population 500. They actually use like garden sheds. I mean, and they created a little miniature downtown here. Each one of these is a garden shed. They put windows in them and I mean, they have jams and jellies, and it's all almost like a little year-round market. How cool is that? I want to thank University of Wisconsin Extension Office for putting that together. But they did another cool thing. These are in Wisconsin, towns of under 5,000, and what they did is they told you in towns of 1,000 or 2,500, look, they saw they had an average of 3.19 restaurants, which meant that most of them had 3 and some of them had 4, you know, and they even put down how many drinking places. And so, you know, and they also put other amusement, bowling or golf. They basically had one per town. So this is kind of a cool guide. Now, we didn't use this guide in our research, but this just kind of validates the research we did. Notice almost every town had one. We're up to 0.92, so maybe one of these towns didn't have one, but a gift, a novelty, a souvenir store, you know, and a florist. Half the towns had florists, you know, and so then they did 2,500 to 5,000. Notice we went restaurants, we went from 3 to almost, you know, 4.5 basically. You know, so some had 5, some had 4. You know, and other ones, drinking places. So you have 4, 5, 6, 7 places that, you know, that are places to eat. So you can see these validate the numbers. And they did this for dozens of towns in Wisconsin. Other amusements, you know, bowling, golf, now we're up to 1.5, gift, novelty stores, you know, on and on. So used merchandise, that's your antique store. We had 1 per town. So once again, ask your locals. Number 2, work with your property owners. Some of you may be saying, well, we need to deal with our property owners, and I'm going to talk about that in this series. But work with them on orchestrating the business mix. You need to work with them on operating in hours and days, and their lease agreement should say when they open and close and what day they should be, what day they should be all closed, so it's consistent. There are ways to work with property owners on pop-up shops, you know, just to put people in empty buildings. And then incentives are going to be important. And all of these things, by the way, we're going to talk about in this series. But the other thing is be creative. I saw this in a little town in Lake County, California, Northern California, the Cowpoke Cafe. You know what? I can't believe how many people stand in front of the store taking selfies of this store because of the way it's decorated. Now, some of you may say, oh my gosh, we can never do that in our historic downtown. But you know what? You need to have fun. And when you can have fun, you're going to gravitate visitors. Number 3, visit other towns your size that have seen success. And you know what? If you don't have a chance to go there, look at them online. You can do downtown Nashville, Indiana in Google and downtown Nashville, Indiana shops. And it'll pull up a map of their downtown and you can zoom in. You can just scan down the map showing their business mix. So if you don't have time to go do this, look at the curb appeal, look at their primary activities. And in closing, all of these downtowns have been very successful. You are seeing their population on the right. All of these have won. All of these have become visitor destinations. They started with their locals, and all of them have the type of business mix you just saw. So I would urge you to go online and look at these towns. If you ever have the opportunity, go visit some of them. And finally, I love this, that MasterCard Spending Pulse put out that consumers are increasingly spending at small businesses. This has been increasing every year since 2012 and is steadily increasing. The general consumer trend is to shop small. Now, the most common weaknesses of local shops are limited business hours, poor customer service, limited selection, high prices, dated appearance, not marketing, or failing the showrooming test. That should have been one word there. It's how you merchandise your store. We'll talk more about this in the next workshop, but these are the things. And by the way, when I say limited selection, if you specialize on something, it won't be limited. You'll have more than Amazon or anybody else would have. So in your niche, in that specialty shop, by having a lot in that, get you out of that. And so.
Okay, that was the section I wanted to show. Thoughts about Roger Brooks' opinions?
Love this guy.
Would you say you like him?
I love him.
Jenny, were
Yeah,
you
I
gonna say
thought
something?
it was fantastic.
Okay.
I think it makes sense.
I don't know if this is the time to say anything because I think it could go off on a huge like tangent, but why don't we have more food trucks? As I know that's a hot topic, but I really do believe that that's a thing that will get more people down here, especially if the majority of the things visitors do here, like the river, they go visit farms, they go hunt for mushrooms. they're activities that they're going to be tired, probably dirty or wet, and don't necessarily want to go to a sit down restaurant. I want to go get a hot dog or a burger or whatever and just be, right? And then maybe go to a clothing store or a florist or any of those other things. I just think that that's a missed opportunity. Or maybe it's not missed. And we're getting there.
Rebecca,
Yes.
I just saw a new one across from the grinding of hot dogs.
Oh, I know. I'm super pumped about that. But I just,
Yeah.
like, it doesn't seem like there's
Yeah.
a designated area. They're just kind of scattered about.
Yeah, yeah.
I second that and would like love to see more food carts.
I guess
Well,
my
I-
question
I-
is what, oh, sorry.
Sorry.
No, that's empty space between what, Yo Treats and the medical office, that big empty spot. I always thought that would be a good place to have a bunch of food trucks.
Between
Access
where-
might not be the greatest.
Where did you say, Connie?
It's right, not Yo Treats, it's behind, right next to the grind, Figaro's, between Figaro's and
Oh,
the medical office. There used to be a building there.
The
And
old
that would be a great place
saloon.
just to throw in some food carts.
what was it, Julie?
The old Pine Cone Saloon.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Can I
So-
ask a really quick question? So I don't know if this is rumor and might be something that's old. So are there any clauses or anything that's been grandfathered in from other businesses that's indicated through the city, like that they can't have another drive-through, or are there, I don't know. I don't know if I'm asking this question right, but I guess what I've heard in the past is that there's been some business owners in Estacada who had worked with the city in implementing certain things to prevent, I guess, competition, like fast food. Like, I guess I heard like one time Taco Time had an agreement with the city that they couldn't bring any other fast food, or I heard something about that other businesses couldn't have drive-through. Are these all rumors, or are there limitations or agreements from business owners with the city about what they can and cannot do because of competition? Does that make sense, what I'm asking?
I think I understand your question. That sounds mainly like Facebook rumors to me.
Okay.
100%.
I mean, I don't know
yeah.
if anyone else heard anything like that. I
I've
just
heard
wanted to
all of those
clarify.
I thought
Yeah, I
that there was a ban on franchises, right? Like long time ago when I was a kid here, I thought that Taco Time had the monopoly on franchises, and then that changed at some point when Subway and TCBY came in. But that again is like, I was literally in high school when all that happened, so I don't know how much is true.
Yeah, I guess I can't speak to decades ago. I can just speak for right now, but there's nothing that would stop competition among business types. There's no quota for number of breweries or number of fast food or number of anything.
Okay.
You mentioned drive-throughs. Drive-throughs in the downtown are what's called a conditional use. We're getting into the weeds now a little bit of municipal stuff, but a conditional use means that you have to make a specific application for it and be approved by the planning commission and demonstrate that your drive-through is not going to be detrimental to traffic flow, surrounding businesses, residents, or you have to be able to demonstrate that your drive-through can operate without having a negative impact in some way.
Okay.
That's the only thing I can think of. Rebecca?
Is this rumor or fact that there is a limited or max amount of food trucks that can be within city limits? Because that's a big one that was going around.
There's no limitation on the number that can be in city limits. The only numeric limitation on food carts is that again, getting back to land use weeds, in the code, there are allowed uses, there are conditional uses, and there are prohibited uses. Food carts were added as an allowed use downtown, and that means you can start it up. You still need a license and you still have to meet certain criteria, but as long as you meet those criteria, you don't have to make any sort of special case to locate downtown.
Okay.
But the code does limit the allowed use of food carts to 2 carts per lot. But if you make a conditional use, then you could have 557 food carts on one lot. Again, it's not that there's anyone trying to discourage the number of food carts on a lot, but the rationale is if you are going to congregate a large number or 3 plus on one lot, then you just need to be able to demonstrate that that can happen without being detrimental to the surrounding area. So if someone did
the
Go ahead.
area, what is it? The old tire shop right on the corner of town where that new the green food truck, I don't remember their name.
The old Bennett's tire shop.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right next to the beautiful parking lot that was built for the cars that don't park there. Could
Mhm.
we put a food cart area there, work with that lot owner, and that could be a new district for downtown? There's available parking that I believe is owned by the city, so we should all be allowed to park there. And then dial it up for food trucks. I mean, that place would be popping.
Yeah,
Or even across
there's
the way where Sluggos, and I know I'm being old school by naming these businesses that aren't along, but where that, Get and Go, across, across from where old Bennett's, the tire shop used to be. There's that lot that you
Yeah.
used to take in to get into Sparky's Pizza, and do you know what I'm talking about?
So in any of these locations, theoretically, all sorts of magical things could happen. But as Roger Brooks pointed out, the property owner has to be cooperative and and understand the vision and buy into it, and maybe even be incentivized in some way to do it. So everywhere downtown that you've seen over the past 5 years or so, a building change, a new business plug in, something positive happen, it's usually because someone has been working with that property owner to catch the vision and to work toward that goal. And then the places where you just see stagnation and negative things or just nothing happening at all, that's usually just someone who's not interested in doing anything and is content with the status quo. And it's hard to strong arm someone to do something they don't want to do. There's still property rights, and we can only work so much. So does that help answer questions people are having?
Mm-hmm.
So, but as far as these ideas for trying to create a food cart pod of some sort, yeah, it can absolutely be done. And there's nothing to say that it couldn't be done at the spots that you're talking about. On the city property, that triangular parking lot that you're talking about, Rebecca, it could theoretically happen there. It just becomes a little bit more legally complicated because we're a public agency.
No, I don't mean putting the food pod there. I mean, if you put the food pod to the right of it, that could then be parking for the customers walking over to the food pod.
Yeah, it's all possible. I'll also say that I think for the most part, people are pretty supportive of food carts and understand that there's a difference between fine dining and food carts, but there's also some perception among some restaurant owners that they erode their ability to do business. And so that's a delicate dance as well.
I just want to say as a restaurant owner that I completely support food carts and I encourage more diverse options in Estacada for food. So
yeah, sometimes you don't want to have Mexican food. Sometimes, I mean, I can have some Chinese food. It just is what it is. I want options. Matt, do you know if the DEC or any entity that's connected to downtown. Have they reached out to the owner of that old tire shop adjacent from the parking lot?
Yes, I know the person who owns that building, and he's a challenging personality. He can be challenging personality, but he has actually grand visions for that property. But getting to that point is tricky. But certainly, I think if there was a plan sort of hashed out at this level, either the DEC level or the design economic vitality level, and it was proposed and said, we want to work with you to make this happen, I think it's possible. I have some doubts just based on past experiences, but I do think it's possible, especially if someone or this group can sort of handhold through that process.
What about the lot that there's currently food carts on behind Justin Video, which I believe is owned by the owner of Justin Video, right? And there's more space there. Like, that's a great location for more food carts, isn't it?
Yeah, and so if they could locate more carts there, they would just have to do the conditional use application. So these are great conversations, and hopefully more of these move down to the committee level once we start having those meetings. But I have no problem having them now. I'm just saying these are great nuts and bolts, strategic type conversations where you can start to say, well, we want to focus on this property and we'd like to see it transform in this way, and then start to make a plan to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes back to what we were talking about in the previous few meetings, where the goal is to get more businesses downtown, right? And rather than one building, which is lovely, one space could house 15 to 20 businesses, which I think the ripple effect would be more noticeable than one brick and mortar. And I could be completely wrong. I haven't watched enough of this funny guy's videos to know if I'm on the right track, but it just kind of seems like that would be a really more bang for your buck as far as putting time and effort into it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of this. I'll just say time and sanity constraints are factors, and then willing property owners are another, not obstacle, but just factor in the equation, variable in the equation. So, but let's do it. That's what we're here for, is to formulate the vision and then at the committee level, make it happen.
Is it a waste of time? I mean, you sound like you've had enough interaction with him where you're like, I mean, and I say that because if we're willing to, or the city or whatever is willing to give a grant of $250,000 to one building that's going to offer some smaller housing options or more affordable housing options and 1/2 businesses, I mean, what could we do for this guy in 2 to 3 or 4 years when we collect more money? The city collects more money, or whoever, for grant purposes.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a waste of time. I try not to get into that defeated mode. I do think he's one of the more willing property owners, but just getting from A to Z is where the challenge is. It's not so much the willingness that's a challenge. Other property owners, the willingness is the challenge. In this case, it's not the willingness, it's more getting from point A to point B or A to Z, whatever. But we should probably talk offline.
Okay.
Let's just say that.
We'll do that then.
Okay.
Sorry, that went.
Oh, and I've been having you stare at my screen the whole time here, and I thought we were looking at each other. I have 2 monitors, so I can see both your faces and the document or video simultaneously. Sorry that you've all just been staring at my screen.
I was going to ask you to get rid of that.
I'm sorry. I have a bad habit. If that happens again in the future, please just say, Matt, take down the screen share. Okay, I think we're pretty much wrapping up here. That's a good discussion, though. I think that's a good, important discussion to have, and it is right in what we're talking about. I guess I did have one more document, but it's the same one that he was showing. This was emailed out to you. So if you're interested in digging into some of these other examples that he was talking about, they're just good food for thought, I feel like, thinking about possibilities and what may be not only possible, but how did they actually make it happen? This one I've seen in other Main Street documents before. It's pretty interesting. They had an old department store that was 15,000 square feet and kind of turned it into like 20 different little pop-up shops that just turned over as needed and, you know, spun off into their own stores eventually and things like that. We don't have a 15,000 square foot building, but we have a 5,000 square foot building that's been vacant for a long time. Again, the challenge there is ownership, but again, with a vision and a plan, it could be possible. So those are just the different ideas. You talked about that one. Anyway, you have this document to look over. So check it out if you'd like to. All right. Anything that anyone else is dying to say or ask before we adjourn? I think we're looking at April 15th next, and we'll try and meet with the chamber and maybe others to look at shared vision and strategies.
Okay.
Jenny, you, I thought, unmuted for a second.
I think I might be opening a can of worms, but I had a question about, can you speak at all to the potential for a cannabis shop coming back to our town? So I heard that that's on the docket again.
Yeah, I can. What I know so far is that the council is revisiting the topic. There are state mandated buffers that we can't control that say that they have to be distanced from each other and distanced from certain things like childcare and churches and things like that. But the city, when they first allowed cannabis at all in any form, either production or retailing, they layered on top of that some more stringent buffers and guidelines that have basically precluded a cannabis shop retail from locating anywhere. There is an allowed area out on the highway where that sign is for Harvest Market by River Mill and the highway. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So theoretically, a building could be built there and a retail cannabis shop could go there. But that's literally the only place in the whole city that it could happen, just by the way the buffer zones line up. So what they're looking at right now is perhaps shrinking the size of the buffer zones to the minimum that the state will allow, and then also removing the ban downtown. Right now, the downtown zone says cannabis retail is a prohibited use. So maybe they would move it to a conditional use or an allowed use. So I think those are the things that they're studying right now.
What is the like Andale building? What is it too close to as far as schools and parks? Like what's
yeah, good question. So the Andale building is in the downtown zone. So that would be strike one, but then strike two, even if cannabis were allowed downtown, retail that is, the little cycling plaza that's on City Hall property is defined as a park. And so that was what would be problematic as a strike two. But if that's the other thing that they're considering is how parks are defined in order to maybe open up other pockets as well. So they're trying to be careful and deliberate about it. But yeah, it's something that they're talking about. Other burning questions or thoughts? Okay, well, I will see, I think most of you at committee meetings in early April, and then again at our joint meeting, I hope, fingers crossed, with the chamber on the 15th. All right,
Okay.
thank you everyone
Bye.
for your attendance.